Hello everybody, welcome to the Nighttime Tea Review. This is your host, Lily Rivers, and tonight I am extremely excited because a song was released for To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. I unfortunately missed it live, but it is on Spotify, and wow, it is, like, words can't even describe it. And then Christopher also put up an Instagram post about it. I don't know if it's the full live, but he did say, the song's titled Sea of Stars, and it was performed by Jennifer Hale and co-written and produced by Todd Herfindahl. Hopefully I didn't butcher that last name. But he said that, let me read, his Instagram post reads, Sea of Stars song. Hey everyone, I'm so happy to share with you the song of Sea of Stars, performed by the amazingly talented J. Halegram, which is Jennifer Hale, and co-written and produced by Todd Herfindahl Music. This song brought tears to my eyes more than once, as it perfectly reflects Kira's journey, and even my own personal one, on the road to creating To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. As far as I'm concerned, this is the anthem for To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, and a wonderful entry into the Fractalverse. Hope you enjoy. There will be more music to come. So, oh my god, I'm so excited about that. I listened to it. It's so freaking beautiful. Her voice, oh my god. And it's haunting and it's beautiful, but it's just like, you can't even really, it's like you can picture yourself being out there in space, and then you can picture this journey. It makes you feel that, and her voice is just perfect for the song, and it's just haunting, and the best way, I know I've been saying this a lot, but the best way I can describe it is hauntingly beautiful. It's just wow. And I'm definitely excited that he's saying there's more music coming. How many times, at least me, I don't know if anybody else, but when you're reading a book, you kind of either place something in the background, or you have this little vague maybe soundtrack in your mind of oh my god, at least I do that, this would be so good if right now it was kind of if it's an intense scene or whatever. And sometimes just even with my own life, at least because of the way that I think, it's just kind of I wonder what kind of soundtrack music would be playing right now, with this event in my life. Probably some sad music, some hype music, it's just so awesome, because now at least if it's something you can do. Some people can't listen to music and read at the same time. I can, depending on what I'm reading, and it's definitely awesome that now there's going to be music I can listen to while I read, and just my own time, because this is definitely something that I'm going to be listening to even without reading the book. It's just, I love it so freaking much. So definitely go listen to it. I'm going to put the Spotify link down in the description box, and the link for the Instagram, and I'm going to also put the link to Christopher's profile, Jennifer's profile, and for for Todd's Instagram as well. It's so beautiful, and he says that it brought tears to his eyes. I totally understand. Obviously, it's even more personal for him, and it's not even personal for me, but it makes you feel something. And you can definitely relate to it, but it's just wow. Because it talks about a journey, and I feel like everybody can relate to that. It's so beautiful. And, I'm just, having a moment with the song here. But we are going to go ahead and get into the next chapter. Kira tightened her grip on the arms of her seat as the suborbital shuttle pitched downward, descending toward island number 302-01-0010, just off the western coast of Legba, the main continent in the southern hemisphere. The island lay on the 52nd parallel, in a large bay guarded by several granite reefs, and was the last known location of the disabled drone. So, they got that signal thing last chapter, and they're like, yeah, we gotta check it out before we go. So they go, And the whole time there, she's just thinking about, oh my God, I got proposed to. I can't wait, to settle down with my family. And we have all of this stuff. And so now, she, she's thinking to herself, we get another little tidbit about just, the kind of stuff that is their day to day. So she's talking about her overlays. I'm pulling up records from the previous night, and then she talks about implants she had installed as a kid. That, and she's like, oh, my parents didn't pay for the sense recording. So she can essentially play back everything in her memories. She just has no touch, taste, or smell of it. And she's thinking like, after last night, I definitely have to get the upgrade because, I don't want to miss out on any other memories I meet going forward. But wow, that's cool. I wouldn't get it done now just because, because I don't think I would ever get it done. But that's pretty cool though that they have it that way. And that's something that, they're doing just currently at that time. So I thought that was really cool and interesting. And then, like on the flight there, she's texting, for lack of a better word, she's replying in her mind, she's vocalizing to Alan, and then, she's sending all these messages back and forth, and she's making sure they're still okay and everything. And then she's kind of thinking about how they've been talking about we're gonna settle here and everything. And she talks about her parents, and she has a sister. She talks about how she hasn't been back in some years to visit her parents, and she misses them. But she's like, no, I'm secure. I know, I'm for sure about my future, and I know that this is what I want. So they get there and everything, and she's just checking everything out. And she does, I am going to read here. This is in page 32. She talks about the atmosphere. So she says, Adrastra's atmosphere was thick enough to breathe, but it would kill you if you tried. Not enough oxygen, not yet. And changing that would take decades. The lack of oxygen also meant that Adra didn't have an ozone layer. Everyone who ventured outside had to be fully shielded against UV and other forms of radiation. Otherwise, you were liable to get the worst sunburn of your life. So I thought that was really interesting. And she does mention, how they've terraformed, there are places that are, I guess, less habitable, and how this is the closest to Earth. So she gets to the place they're supposed to check out, which is just this little island off the coast. And she describes that. I am going to read from that too. That's page 33. The island was an unlovely heap of rocks and rust-colored soil, large enough... Sorry. The island was an unlovely heap of rocks and rust-colored soil, large enough that she couldn't see the far side, only the near coast. Beyond the edge of land spread an expanse of gray water, like a sheet of hammered lead, and the tips of the waves highlighted with the ruddy light from the cloudless sky. A poison ocean, heavy with cadmium, mercury, and copper. Kita jumped down from the airlock and closed it behind her. She frowned as she studied the telemetry from the downed drone. The organic material it had detected wasn't by the water, as she'd expected, but rather at the top of a wide hill a few hundred meters to the south. So, she gets there, she's examining everything, and she's just thinking that looks like something I already know. But she's like, I just gotta confirm it. And she says how biologically there's nothing much of interest there. And that's, it's lucky even if it's a little bit boring you, because the absence of developed forms, it just means that they don't have to worry about anything. And then she mentions another place called, I'm going to probably butcher this, Eidolon. And she says that it's beautiful, but that it's deadly because they've had to wrestle against the native flora and the fauna, just to be able to live there. So, she finishes analyzing everything, and she's like, yeah, it's what I thought it was. This all checks out, whatever. And she's starting to leave, but she's kind of curious about where the drone crashed. And she just kind of is observing, and then she notices that there's something kind of like a formation, And it describes it as a formation of jagged pillar-shaped rocks stabbed out of the ground at a steep sideways angle. And all the places Kira had visited on Adra, and they were many. She hadn't seen anything, and they were many. She hadn't seen anything quite like it. That was on page 35. So she gets closer, and she examines. She gets readings, and the element list jumps out at her. So Alan, who's her fiance, he's the geologist, so she's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna forward this to him. And he's like, oh, that's pretty cool, can you get some samples? So she's like, yeah, totally. So she lets the person that she came on the mission with know, Nagar, which hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, like, hey, I'm gonna be a little bit longer. And she's like, just hurry up, I want to get back because Hugo's making like cinnamon rolls and I don't want to miss them. So she arrives at the little outcropping, and she's examining and then taking samples. And here on page 36 is this little paragraph. There was something about the appearance of the rocks that Kira found off-putting. They were too dark, too stark and sharp-edged, too different from the rest of the landscape. A ruined spire alone amid the granite wasteland. And though she knew it was her imagination, an uneasy air seemed to surround the outcropping, like a low vibration just strong enough to annoy. Were she a cat, Kira felt sure her hair would be standing on end. She frowned and scratched her forearms. So, super eerie. And I can't help it. I really can't, especially, I don't know if anybody else that has been reading it caught it or like connected it or thought about it. But to me, when I read this, my mind went immediately to the inheritance cycle. This kind of reminds me of Helgrind because of like the whole, I mean, it's not the same at all, but just like the feeling she's getting like in the outcropping, and it's like this whole vibe and stuff. I mean, I'm not saying it is, but that's just what my mind immediately jumped to. And then that reminded me, just the last chapter, when Alan grew like the flowers for her. And it reminded me of the whole thing that Eragon did with Arya, with the flowers on the 2 occasions. The one where he did something for her, and then the other one where they both kind of created like the golden lilies, I think it was. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, don't come at me for that. But that's just how I remember it happening. And I thought that was interesting. Definitely would love to ask Christopher if I ever get to meet him in person. Like, hey, like, did you do that on purpose? Like, it's just, I think it's a neat little, I mean, to me, that's a connection I made. I think that's pretty neat. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. So, it's kind of eerie, and she's kind of like, man, like, like, how did this happen? This doesn't look kind of, she's just like, it doesn't look like, what was it caused by? It doesn't look like this natural formation, whatever. And she's getting, the last sample, and she's just kind of giving everything a look over. And she sees like a flash of something, and it catches her eye. And she's like, hey, like, I should probably get a sample of that. And she goes there, and, she's like, what is this? Like, this looks super, she's like, silver, but it's too pure to be silver. Like, what is this? And she's just like, it was odd, to her that was out there. So she leans forward, and she hears like this bang, this noise, and she slips, and she falls all the way down. And, she wakes up, she's like, nothing's broken, I'm fine. But she takes some liquid Noradon, so they have like feeding tubes in there and their skin suits. And she's just, lying there. She's like, oh crap, But she's fine otherwise. And then, she stands up, and she's like, oh, it's like a cave, like a circular cave. And then she starts kind of like examining it more and more. And she's like, wait, this isn't a cave. Like, this couldn't have been formed by anything. And she realizes, holy crap, I'm in a room. And there's a little line here, page 39. Thule, she whispered. She wasn't religious, but right then prayer seemed like the only appropriate response. So this freaked her out. And then she goes on to say, aliens, intelligent aliens. A rush of fear and excitement swept through Kira. Her skin went hot. Pinpricks of sweat sprang up across her body, and her pulse started to hammer. So she's like, holy crap, She's even praying over here. And then she goes on to say, that there's ever only been another alien artifact found. But, whoever made it, whoever was there, like, nobody knows what happened to them or anything, or where any of that came from. And she's talking about how another xenobiologist, much like herself, found that. And she's just like, oh my god, the discovery, I can write about this, like, my career. And she's just trying to, like, clear her head, and, she's like, trying to examine everything, and she's like, I'm not supposed to touch anything, I'm not supposed to disturb anything, like, those are kind of the rules. And, the second that I felt, that my skin suit feet cut out, like, Nagar's gonna be coming for me. So she's just kind of trying to examine everything as much as she can without, like, disturbing anything. And she's like, man, I wish I could touch stuff, but no, I'm not gonna break protocol. And, she's just noticing different things. Like, there's a pedestal in the middle of the room. There's, like, writing, like, on the walls around and everything. And she just kind of really frustrated that she can't touch anything. But then a rock drops from an opening in the ceiling. And so she stumbles forward and she falls. So she gets closer. Well, she falls closer to the pedestal in front of her. And she's like, man, I should have been more careful. But she's, like, super curious. And she's like, man, is that glowing? Like, why? And she just essentially can't keep to herself. So she's like, if only I could see underneath. There's, like, so much dust on it. And she's like, I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not that stupid. So she grabs a canister of compressed air from her belt. And she's like, I'm just gonna blow the dust from the edge. And, she's looking at the lines. And she's like, they are glowing. Still wants to do more. She's like, no, I shouldn't do anything else. I've done enough. So she turns to leave. But then she can't move because her right foot is stuck to the floor. And she's like, WTF. And I was, like, super ouch about this, but her Achilles tendon, like, wrenches and tears, and it's just like, ugh, like, fuck. And so she looks down at her foot, and she just sees, like, a bunch of black dust covering it, and that it's, like, moving, and it's coming from the basin and the pedestal. And she's just kind of like, it's going up my leg, and, like, holy crap. And she's calling for help, and, she tries to get rid of it with her belt, and she tries to get rid of it, she tries to scrape it off her thigh with the belt, and it's, like, not really doing anything, and it's going up and up and up and up. So she's like, fuck this. So she tries to get it off with her hand, but, doesn't do anything, and then now it's on her hand. So she seals off, like, the cuffs in her suit, but it still manages to make its way into the suit. And she's just, like, calling for help, and she's screaming, and she's just feeling it climb up higher and higher and higher until it gets up into her neck and her chest and her face. And I'm just like, holy shit. Seriously, like, no. Like, nope. And then on page 44, we're, like, just reading this, I was like, ugh. She screamed and clawed at her visor, trying to clear it off. The dust oozed across her cheek and tore the front of her face. She screamed again and then clamped her mouth shut, closed off her throat, and held her breath. Her heart felt as if it were going to explode. So, then she talks about how it's going over her eyes. And then eventually, just goes into her mouth, and it rushes inside of her, and then she just all goes blank. And I'm just here like, what on earth? Like, no way. Just thinking about that feeling, like, of something just crawling into your, like, I can't. Nope. Definitely really enjoyed this chapter. I'm definitely gonna start right on the other one, but I really wanted to get on this because I've been gone for so long, and I just wanted to while I was still fresh in my mind. But I'm just like, yeah, way to leave it on a cliffhanger. Good thing that I have the rest of the book right in front of me. Because, no, yeah. On another note, and I will include more of this in the next episode, I did see through Christopher's Instagram that he is working with somebody. I cannot remember with who at the moment, but they are actually going to make this into a movie. And I'm really excited because, you know, a lot of people on the comments were like, oh, don't let this be like Eragon, you know. But it's like the situation is obviously very different, whether he is being given creative control or not. You know, I'm sure he's working with somebody completely different this time, and I'm sure he wouldn't have said, hey, Alec, let me sell rights or whatever it is that the agreement is, without, you know, making sure that it was going to be what he wanted to be. And he's excited about it. So, you know, I feel like people need to kind of back down a little bit on that. I'm excited. I'm super, super freaking excited. I mean, are you kidding? And I know a lot of people also said it too, like, hopefully Eragon can be remade like this one day. And I don't think he has the rights as far as I know, which really sucks. But my hope is that one day, there will be a remake and that he will be included in the creative process and in everything. Because, man, that series deserves to be out in the world. There's, you know, movie, which I don't think would be the best for it. I think it would do much better as a series. But I'm excited that they are going to do something with To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, because, I mean, it deserves it. And I would definitely love to see it on screen. So I'll definitely be digging a little bit more into that. I know there was an article somewhere. I haven't read it yet. I've been really disconnected from everything. But I just really wanted to upload some more content. And hopefully, you know, I'll have a couple of different episodes up this week to make up for the lack of. But anyway, if you got to the end, thanks for listening. And I know, just in case anybody's interested, he is having, like, just for the upcoming holidays, he partnered with another bookstore, I believe, and he is doing more signed copies of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And he has merch. It's really limited. I haven't been able to get my hands on it. On his Etsy shop, like, he has 2 different shirts. I'm hoping that before they sell out, that I am able to get my hands on them. And I know there was, I believe, a new jewelry piece that came out with the same people he was doing the collab with before. So I'll just go ahead and leave links in the description box for all of that. And yeah, so once again, if you made it to the end, thanks for listening, and until next time.